Can we continue that discussion about India's poor and the role of business in helping that situation, helping the poverty? I read recently an article about you commenting on the issue of the lack of toilets for India's rural population, which of course famously half the population has no access to toilets. And in that article you said something to the effect that you can build many toilets and that's not the problem. The problem is the power and the water access to make them usable.
Yeah, you see, there is a big thrust now to set up toilets in schools because we now have enough statistical evidence to know that girls at puberty drop out of schools which don't have toilets for obvious reasons. So there is need for, so that's one of the problem here is the current technology for toilets is a wet technology. It's not a dry technology, which means the toilet, in order to run, needs water. And in a rural school, the village council is probably not supplying water. If it's not supplying piped water, then the school needs to dig a borewell. To run the borewell, you need a pump. To run the pump, you need electricity, which is probably not available 24/7 of good quality. So then you need a diesel generator. Then you need storage space for the diesel. So the operating costs of running the toilets and the operating complexity. If you're the headmaster or principal of that school and you want to keep the toilet running, you have to become an expert in diesel pump maintenance, diesel generator maintenance, and in water pump, borewell pump maintenance. Very difficult. And remember, always, but generally money, even private philanthropy, but even government money, all of this is easier to get for capital assets. To build the toilet, you'll get the money. The school won't get the money for the operating costs. So that's the point I'm trying to make, that if we are going to take this seriously, either we have to invest in some radically new technology, which is dry toilets, which still is not there. It might come up in 5 years, but not at economically affordable prices, is still not there. Or we have to focus, instead of setting up 1,000 toilets in schools, we might be better off setting up 500 toilets and making sure that we give them the operating budget to have the water and electricity and to make it run. That's the point I'm trying to make. Building, it's not a big deal and we can bring the costs down dramatically. Building the toilet is the least, and frankly, the end game solution is also quite easy. We can have septic tanks. That's easily done. It is the water and availability of continuing water which is the problem.
So the solution has to be a political one and not a business one.
Well, I've been telling a couple of these companies which are doing this as part of their corporate social responsibility, saying don't build 1,000, build 500, and keep the money, the other 500 for the operating costs. That's what I'm trying to tell them. In fact, build 400 because you have to put in a bloody generator and a pump and all that costs money. It's not just the toilet. Some of them are listening. So, yeah, I think it's a way of looking at it, as saying, are you ticking off a box in some UN Human Development Report that we've set up 1 million toilets, or do you want toilets that work? Ticking off these boxes in some silly report is of no help. They have to be working. So then, if it's government doing it, what I've recommended is we need a citizens audit, where they go to each village school and say, yes, it's working. Surprise visits. If you don't do those things, you will have a lot of contractors building toilets and walking away and making a profit margin, and then they'll become derelict ruins. That's what they will be.